Yes. All right, Doc.
All right, Doc.
All right.
That's somebody find soul.
Amen.
Amen. Yes, sir.
Bishop, thank you. Effective praise and all my colleagues,
Bless you, Doc.
my wife, and members of Acts Community Baptist Church, thank you.
Amen.
23rd chapter, Gospel according to St. Luke. The 23rd chapter, the 46th verse. You will find these particular words with particularity from the New Revised Standard Version.
All right, sir.
Amen.
There is no possibility of any teacher accepting a sentence starting with amen.
Yes, sir.
Well,
Yes, sir.
say that. All right. Say that.
But I want to let you know, if I had to give a subject, I want to talk about a transitional word.
All right. Okay.
Wow.
And with a loud voice.
Yes.
Come on.
Jesus cried out,
Yeah. All right.
Father, into thy hands I commend
There you go.
my spirit.
Yeah.
Many of us who craft the essence of life begin to maintain a purpose around particular words that seems to capture us. And these words are many times etched out in the context of individuality based upon the life in which individuals live.
All right.
Watch out.
Yeah.
But in the context in which we live, there's always a possibility
Come on,
of
sir.
an and, which is a
There you
transitional
go.
word. So how can my life and my context,
Sir.
how can my hermeneutics, my state of where I come from,
Watch out now.
my particular social dynamics, my ethnic makeup, and my particular position in life put me in the arena of what God would desire for all of us to have,
Yeah.
which is to be in unity, to be in purpose, and to have a significant purpose for life.
All right. Well,
Come on. Sir.
In the early stages of Genesis, there's a particular word that God began to carve out for all of us, and that word in the Hebrew is known as the imago Dei.
All right. Yeah.
Everyone is created in the image of God.
Yeah.
But yet time as it progresses, life as it proceeds, sometimes allow us to fumble our best opportunities. And fumbling our best opportunities, as Dietrich Bonhoeffer said, we live on the edge of cheap grace.
All right.
yeah.
Wanting something for nothing, but yet not
There you
wanting
go.
to pay the
There you go.
price.
Yeah.
Leaning towards the edge, but yet not trying to cross over.
Well,
Destroying the bridge once we cross over, not allowing others to track the same journey that we're trying to track in the midst of life. But yet here in life, God knew, with his profound providence and plan, knew he had to craft a transitional word.
All right.
Our transitional word, if I had to talk to you for a little, we all were created in sin and shaped in iniquity.
Yes.
The transitional word comes that if sin now has been transformed, it has changed to sin. In the midst of sorrow and pain and suffering, the word has transformed to joy. And in the midst of life, deprivating consequences, God gives us that which we need.
That's
And so now, here we are. Look at the text and look at all the preachers, how they brought the word. The seventh last word does not house in one particular book. When you look at Matthew, when you look at Mark, when you look at John, when you look at all these particular texts, it comes to us in a very unusual way. But thank God for Dr. Luke, the physician. Because the third, fourth, fifth, and sixth words of the cross are not reported in Luke. But he does, however, report the first, the second, and the seventh. In the seventh, on the seventh day, he rested. He does report the seventh words. He uses a word that has not been used in Matthew and Mark. Because when you talk about Mark, it talks about anguish, as if a person has obliterated their minds and their cognitive factors are blown because they cannot stand the weight of life. And the weight of life has given in to them with not the possibilities to grab them with an oasis of hope, but allow them to fall beyond the essence of life with a devaluing moment, and they are mystified and also not only mystified but blown away in life. Then here comes Jesus. He don't care if he's been blown away. The Pharisees and the Sadducees tried to blow him away. The high priest, Pilate, and Herod tried to come and blow him away. But yet his particular purpose for us allow us to hang in there and allow him to not give in to the oasis of defeated moments, but gave him an opportunity to stay right there for the cause and purpose of life. And we ought to thank God for Jesus tonight on this Good Friday. Because in Matthew, anguish. In Mark, anguish. But in Luke, that transitional word, it is not only blown away, but it's a transitional word. Look at the transitional word that Jesus offers us tonight. The transitional word offers us cry. The transitional words offers us command. And the transitional words offers us give it up. The last breath. But so in this text, it gives us an existential compass of how we ought to craft our life in the purpose and the meaning of what God would have us to do. And so what if the first transitional words, what if we retain what is in Luke 23:46? What if, my brothers and sisters, if God adds on to us in Luke 23:46, and what if God gives us the avenue to produce something that would allow us to have to stay there to understand that the purpose of what God is doing for us would allow us to be able to make it through no matter what we're going through. He had already thirsted. He had already called Eli, Labachani. He had already done so many things. But then in this midst of life, the transitional word, Jesus was not angry. Actually, he was happy because in the word, if you want to deal with the etymology of command, he gave himself, he trusted himself, and then he did something unusual that most people cannot understand, because in Psalms, if you want to deal with exegeting the text, in Psalms it never talks about the Father, but in Luke he talks about the Father, Rabboni, the teacher who comes to us to give us that which we need, to give us the hope in our despair, to give us that which we need in the cause of life, and yet he had to depend on the Father. Well, if I had to tell everybody tonight, I hope that you will be crafted around the Father and allow the Father to wrap himself around you and allow the Father to be your purpose, your life, and that which you need to be. Allow the Father to be the Father and you be the Son and daughter. You be what God would have you to be. Because God will not go through anything that allow you to go through anything that he has not already been through. He will not allow you to be forsaken because he's always with you. He will not allow you to lose him if you only understand that the Father's purpose will give you meaning and the source of life. And so what I want to share with you tonight, my brothers and sisters, he commended himself unto God. While he was on the cross, he trusted in the Father. Even though they was heckling him, he was praising the Father. Even though he was going through, he still understood that the faith and the providence of who he was, he allowed faith to be what faith was and what faith should be. He didn't call on Hebrews, faith of the substance of things hoped for. He didn't call on unusual words. He just called on faith to be faith. If I had to tell you something tonight, let faith be faith. If we had to live in faith, if we had to grow in faith, when somebody asked me, how can I grow in faith? I'm spiritually immature. I don't have everything I need to make it in life. Well, if you are spiritual mature, just hang on to your faith around John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son. And then this is how you hang on faith. You believe in that and you don't let nobody deter you from that. You wrap your heart in that and allow that to be a part of who you are. And then you can say, no matter what happens to me, my brothers and sisters, my ankle holds in the Lord. And so he cried out with a loud voice. So different people go through the aspects of crying. That's a grief cry. That's a happy cry. That's a joyful cry. That's an anguish cry. But there's a mending cry. That commending cry was, God, I'm glad you showed up. Because this is the only text that the angel did not visit Jesus. He visited Jesus when he was born, carried him when he was traveling, but the angel had to leave him alone while he was on the cross. Where the doses is dead, well, he was not fully divine, because guess what? But the word said he became flesh and dwelt among human beings. All I want you to know tonight, my brothers and sisters, I want you to hang on to the transitional word. To hang on to the transitional word. And that word, my brothers and sisters, is what God will give you to retain. He's giving me hope in the midst of this world. This world is falling apart. This world is dealing with anti-Semitism, anti-this and anti-that. This world has come in an unusual way, killing people in Kenya, going all over the world. But guess what? Good Friday has already come. Good Friday has laid itself in the bosom of the universe. And though you slay me, yet will I trust him. I'm going to wait till his change comes. I'm going to hang on to the Beatitudes. I'm going to hang on to the power of God. I'm not going to let nothing turn me around. That's what Jesus did. He hung in there. He did not give up, and he called on the Father. If he had to do with antebellum before the Civil War, they would say, Father, I stretch my hands to thee. If he had to deal with the unusual format of life, he would tell us that God got everything in his hands. And so God loved the powerful. God loved the weak, no matter who you are, what you're trying to accomplish. Because what I want you to know, and he says in this text, and the Lord made a loud voice, and he cried out. Won't you cry out to the Father? Won't you cry out to the Father? Won't you cry out? Cry out. And then he said, into thy hands I commend. And I want you to watch this. Commend. Not based upon the suspicion of naming and claiming.
Well,
Help us.
well,
Turn to your neighbor.
well.
But commend. Commend yourself
Wow.
to an entrusted God.
Oh, yeah.
And so many people always want to read the 23rd Psalm.
All right, now go ahead. Go ahead.
But Matthew and Mark, you should have been reading the 22nd Psalm. Tonight you read the 23rd Psalm. Yea, though I walk through the valley and the shadow of death, I commend my spirit. I give it all to God.
Come on now.
You got to understand that the oasis of life is fooling us in a consumer society that is calling our name, and God does not have his name on it. And so if we are going to get to the point, he gave me 3 extra minutes, 15 minutes.
Praise the Lord. Praise the
If we
Lord.
ever going to get to the point in life, you are going to have to trust the Father.
There you go.
Trust the Father in everything that you can encounter.
Yeah.
And he breathed his last breath for you. We ought to commend ourselves to the purpose and the work and craft ourselves around the identity of God and allow our purpose to give purpose to life. There's no way Christians should be giving in and giving up on everything and allowing the masses of folk to challenge us, and we don't stand for anything, and allow us to understand that the commending is not only for individuals, but it's also for you. And this passage helps us to understand with the transitional word. Stephen was able to go to a martyr's death and say, I commend my spirit unto you. And as I close, Nick Vonovich, born without no arms, born without no legs. Bonovich went through life, yet he could not do anything. But he understood that that was a transitional word that God had given him. And I understand, I wish there was some Nick Bonoviches in here. Because guess what? We got all our faculties, but yet we cannot accomplish anything because we limit ourselves with lethargy and the possibilities of thinking that we cannot do what God has already done. Nick Bonovich became a popular speaker. And somebody asked me, what is miracles? What are they all about? How are and when does a miracle come? And Nick Bonovich says you need to stop looking for a miracle and be the miracle that God has called you to be. So I commend you tonight. I commend you the possibilities to move forward. And so what did God tell us to retain in this text? He tells us to retain the Father. And then he also tells us what does he calls us to act. He adds to us. Joanna Salome married to go tell the disciples that he is not here. He has risen. Go tell Peter to come run and find that the body is not there. And then what does he call us to do? He calls us to produce, because most of us, we are Christians but don't produce anything. But see, God told us in Genesis to be fruitful and multiply. Well, I know many of you are beyond your biological clocks, but in the 21st century, to be fruitful and multiply is to offer the life resources that God has given you and to go and retain somebody and help somebody make a difference, and to give the talents that God has given to you and don't keep them to yourself, but then everything that you do, offer it to the Father. Let the Father challenge you, take care of you, and give everything, because guess what? No matter what you do, no matter how much you preach, you should never take credit for what you do, because I cannot do nothing without the power of God. And guess what? Jesus understood he could not do nothing without the power of God. When he had to give it up, he died, went to the body tomb. He died. Joseph of Arimathea came and got the body. He died. Mary came to the tomb. Mary, the other Mary came to the tomb. He died. Some said in 1 Peter Peter, he went to captivity to preach to those. But yet he still was dead. But yet even in the transition of mind, even though being dead, you can still be alive.
All right, Holy Ghost. All right, all right.
So I challenge you tonight.
Yes.
I challenge you with one more word.
Yes, Lord.
And I'm going to leave you with one more word. And one more word was Jesus was resurrected on the third day. Come on, man. Well, somebody said, if Jesus resurrected, can he resurrect somebody else? Well, I say yes, he can. Because do you want to know what resurrection is? Resurrection is a being that has no business being, but is. But it keeps on showing up. Somebody should not have shown up today. But guess what? The resurrection power of God resurrected your life. And guess what? When God lifted you up, you ought to give him all the glory. God said, if you be lifted up on you, he'll draw all men unto me. He'll draw all women unto us. He'll draw all kids unto us. He'll draw all wayward people unto us. He'll draw all backbiters unto us. He'll draw all wet-minded Christians unto us. He'll draw all superficial folk unto him, because the power of God will help us to understand that